Now, when Oba Akintoye regained his throne, of course, he also began to sign treaties with the British as well as with Ekpe and Badar. Now, what is important about Lagos? In 1862, 1 year after the conquest of 1861, the British established the Crown Colony system. Now, this Crown Colony system was the establishment of a legislative council, as you have it in England, with a legislature, an executive, and judiciary in one body, which means there was direct political control and administration of Lagos. Members of this legislative council were mostly government officials and nominated European traders and those that represented specific interests. Very few Africans were nominated to that legislative council. As I explained, it was only for 12 years, because from 1862 up to 1906, it was the Parliament established in Lagos that made the laws and also executed those laws in the interest of the country. But for 12 years, the interval of 1861 to 1906, that the affairs of Lagos colony were transacted in the Gold Coast, which is now called Ghana, because the British felt that the cost of running their Crown Colony system in Lagos was becoming too expensive for them, and therefore shifted for a while, for 12 years, the seat of government from Lagos to Accra. And of course, by 1885, it was returned back to Lagos, apparently at the end of the Berlin Conference, to demonstrate to other European powers that the territory called Lagos was effectively under British control and empire. And from there, Britain began to launch its conquest of present-day Nigeria. I've explained in this paper that the presence of the British in Lagos provided an opportunity to plan the conquest of the whole of Nigeria. Beginning from Lagos, they moved hinterland to Yoruba land. Ijebu land, for example, for trade, moved to Ibadan, moved to Egba land, moved to Odoyo, from there also moved to Benin. Then they moved to Niger Delta. In history, you will recall the resistance by these African states. We know of King Jaja of Opobo. We also know about Nana Olomu, who was the governor of the Benin River in the Shekeri land. And of course, also in Calabar. Now, from there was this conquest, right from the coast, up north, as far as to Borno, to Kano, Zaria, and Sokoto. By the early 20th century, the area that we now call Nigeria have been conquered by the British. Of course, today, if you go to the center of Nigeria, which is the conference town called Lokoja, that was also a military base from where the British extended its conquest to other parts of Nigeria. I have discussed how the Legislative Council functioned in Lagos and the opportunity that was created by this for Lagos State. Lagos, from 1861, had become the capital of Nigeria. Now, when John Beecroft also moved to Calabar, his thinking was to move the capital of the newly conquered territory from Lagos to Calabar, and that might also afford a better opportunity to expand towards the area we now call Obodukato Ranch, towards Calabar, and the area that is now known as the English-speaking part of Cameroon. Yeah. But however, that thinking was resisted in the colonial office, and they said Lagos should remain the capital of the British Empire in Nigeria, rather than shift the empire to Calabar. Otherwise, Lagos would have lost its place in Nigerian history to Calabar. So Lagos remained as the British capital. Now, once the territory of Lagos had come under British hegemony and dominance, and the administrative units brought under the sovereignty of the British Crown, the expansion from the coast to the hinterland of Nigeria began in different episodes of military conquest. One of the historians of Ibadan School of History, Professor Obaro Ikime, he wrote a book titled The Fall of Nigeria, the British Conquest. In that book, although he was criticized by other historians that there was no Nigeria at the time of British conquest, and therefore the episodes which he describes as the fall of Lagos, the fall of Oyo, the fall of Benin, the fall of Oni, the fall of Opobo, the fall of Calabar, the fall of Lokoja, Kano, etc., that all of these were episodes in territory that was not known then as Nigeria. But Ikime insists that so long as the territory has now come to be known as Nigeria, we are looking at the imperial states of Nigeria at that time that fell to the British, the Benin Empire, Oyo Empire, etc. And so you will find that book very interesting. It was one of those books that actually generated debates among scholars in Ibadan School, the ABU School, and so on and so forth. We actually want to see in that from Lagos, we are looking at the Lagos factor. From Lagos, particularly between 1861 and 1885, the thinking or the imperial thoughts in the minds of traders, missionaries, and travelers from Britain is that they could, through the signing of treaties, gradually, expand their influence to other parts of Nigeria. But from 1885, when the scramble for Africa was intensified, that was when the British also began their military conquest of what is called today Nigeria. Lagos was the base that provided that opportunity for the British to expand not only in Yoruba land, to expand its influence not only Niger Delta and the old Benin Empire, but to the Middle Belt and to the north of Nigeria. By 1906, Britain has succeeded in the conquest of Nigeria. But something happened. Southern Nigeria was basically on its own. Lagos colony was also on its own. In May 1906, the Lagos Colony and Protectorate was amalgamated with the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria to form the new colony and Protectorate of Southern Nigeria. People talk of amalgamation of Nigeria only in terms of 1914. It was the success story of the amalgamation of Lagos and its protectorate with the Protectorate of Southern Nigeria in 1906 that, of course, gave the impression that the north of Nigeria and the south could be joined together to form a single territory of the British. Now, the period from 1906 to 1914 was the period that are described as the final stage in the consolidation and expansion of British colonial rule in Nigeria. During this period, British officials they used coercion and diplomacy in different parts of the country to reduce opposition of the people against colonial domination. Colonialism was a phase in the process of British subjugation of Nigeria, during which the country was subjected to direct military and political control.